President Trump's war in Iran is putting him in conflict with some of his biggest supporters. MAGA media figures like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly are breaking with the president, expressing skepticism of the military campaign to their large audiences. Here to break it down is The Hill's media reporter, Dominic Mastrangelo. Hey, Dominic. So what are the president's critics on the right saying, and what is their issue with this war?
Well, this is fairly surprising to see figures like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, who are usually pretty loyal to the president, pretty supportive of most of his policy objectives, to hear them breaking with him on something like this. Megyn Kelly, for example, has really sort of railed against this war from the beginning when there was reports that the president was even eyeing any kind of strike in Iran, saying that the president would come to regret something like this. Tucker Carlson has long been a critic of Israel and has suggested that Trump is being influenced by Israel in some capacity to act militarily in the Middle East. Both of the pundits and others in the right-wing media ecosystem have suggested that Americans don't want this war, that many of folks remember the wars in the Middle East have passed and don't want to send their dollars and potentially American lives at risk with conflict. So it is certainly very interesting to see these folks that typically are very supportive of the president break with him on this very consequential issue.
Do you see a divide in conservative so-called new media coverage versus maybe more traditional coverage from outlets like Fox News and the Wall Street Journal editorial board?
Yes, there really does seem to be a pretty big break there. Many of the hosts on Fox are largely supportive of the president's objectives militarily in Iran. They are saying this is peace through strength. You see them saying a lot of the same things that you're hearing from the White House podium. The Wall Street Journal, as you noted, has also, in its editorial pages, urged the president against stopping strikes there because of what they are calling, short-term economic pain. Americans are feeling that at the gas pump. That really is it stands in contrast to many of the folks in the sort of podcast sphere and the new media realm, like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, who both worked at Fox for a long time, who are vehemently opposed to this. So there really does seem to be quite a break there within the conservative movement.
If we look back to the 2024 election, President Trump pitched himself as the anti-war candidate focused on things like fixing the economy. He also went on these non-political podcasts, maybe think of people like Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, as a way to reach maybe less engaged voters and independents. What are those media outlets saying about the war and the Trump presidency on a larger scale?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Joe Rogan because he was very vocally against this. He called it insane and really called the president out, saying, "You ran on this. You said that you weren't going to bring America any foreign wars or endless wars, as the President Trump and others have warned against." So the word he used, and that I've heard other folks use too in the conservative media space, is betrayed. Americans might feel some sort of betrayal by or misled by the president. Now, again, the White House has insisted that this military action in Iran was needed, that Iran remains an existential threat, or the previous regime did. So it'll be really interesting to see the longer and longer this goes on, what the Joe Rogans, the Megyn Kellys, the Tucker Carlsons of the world continue to say about this war, because it's very important to their audiences and really to Americans more broadly.
How are the president and his backers responding to this criticism?
I haven't said that much, although President Trump last week in a recent interview basically dismissed it, saying that his supporters are very supportive of what he's doing, that folks like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson aren't MAGA, in his words, that they aren't reflective of how the broad swath of his supporters feel. And again, it's very interesting. Some sources that I've talked to, in the political sphere have said that, one of the things that the White House sacrificed was selling this message, selling this war for the element of surprise. This sort of blowback, even internally from folks in, usually friendly media, was something that just sort of the cost of doing business politically. So it will be interesting to see exactly where this goes long term from a messaging perspective.
What do you think this divide means for the future of the Republican Party? It seems like this fight between the hawks and the isolationists, pro-Israel, Israel skeptics, it could be a potential dividing line for Republican presidential contenders in 2028.
It certainly could, and it might be a little too early to see how this eventually really lands with voters, because that's how they're going to eventually weigh in on this. But it's very interesting to watch conservative media in this moment and in subsequent moments, because there's no better way to just sort of see a reflection of where voters are at, or where some of these pundits think the American voters are at. I mean, again, there seems to be quite a break between the president and the White House position on this and some of these pundits. So where voters end up on this still remains to be seen.
Yeah, a lot of times the comments from those big media figures are the prism which a lot of people form their opinions. So it'll be interesting to see how that trickles down through our politics. For now, we'll leave it at that, Dominic. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.